Welcome to IAS Net Study, and this is the ethics series. And in this ethics series, this is the 14th video. We started a third unit, aptitude, and in the last video, we had a basic definition, basic understanding of aptitude, types of aptitude. Now we are going to extend our discussion. The next topic is foundational values of civil services. Uh, Here in this video, let's talk about the basis of foundational values. That why do we need this? Why is it important? And what are the sources of foundational values and what are the challenges? All these aspects we are going to have a discussion here. And in the next value, maybe in the next video, maybe around 2-3 videos, we are going to cover around 18 to 20 foundational values. This would be sufficient to answer a question in the examination. Most probably the questions will be revolving around these foundational values only. So let's get into the discussion of this. So the foundational values, let's start from the values. You know this particular flowchart. Belief that is going to impact our value system, then values are going to impact our attitude, and finally attitude, it is going to impact our behavior. So this is a chart, and here values, it talks about personal standard, and based on these standard I evaluate things. I have certain values I follow in my life, and based on these values I evaluate things. So these are maybe moral standard, personal standard. It changes from person to person. For me, hard work is a value, and for another person it may be smart work. And punctuality is a one of the values for me, and for another person it differs. So values, it changes from person to person. These are the standards and norms. Based on these standards and norms I take decisions, I make my decision. So these are values. In the same way, at personal level I have these values, and even at the society level, so at the social level, even at for every society we have certain norms, certain standards, and me being a part of this society, I have to uphold these values. So every society has a set of values which is acceptable and which has to be respected and followed by every member of that society. So these are social values. Then in a similar way, see, at individual level these values works, and at the social level these values works, and even at the organization level also value has a very significant role. At organization, you can dissect into two parts. The first is private organization, and then we have a public organization. See, in private organization, if you look at the values, one among the value is one among the values is the profitability also. Here private organization is dependent on the profit factor. If there is no factor, these private organization, they cannot work, and it is not sustainable also. So profitability is a value for a private organization, but the same value of profitability does not apply to the public organizations. Here in the public organization, what are they mainly, what exactly administration is focusing, what exactly government is focusing? It is accessibility of services, it is availability of services, it is our affordability of services. These are the factor which are mainly focused in public services. Whereas the factor of profitability, it is not considered as a value in a public organization. So these are the differences. At individual level I have certain value system, these acts as certain standards and norms. You have certain values and system, it differs from person to person. At in the same way, society also, at the social level there are certain norms, there are certain standards where everybody in a social setup we have to respect it. And again, these social norms, social values also changes from society to society. The social norms and the standards of Indian society, it is different from Western society, right? And these norms of African continent, the countries in the African continent, it is different from European society. So even at the social level also, these norms and standards changes from society to society. In the same way, we have organizational values also. Organizational value, the values are different for private organizations, values are different for public organization. Now in this unit we are going to talk about foundational values which are necessary for public service, which are necessary for civil service. We are going to have a detailed discussion here, and these values, it gives us idea what is the basis of this particular organization. Take an example of judiciary as an institution. What is the basis, what is the value of judiciary? It is the justice, right? And this justice is based on truth. And if you look at the tagline of judiciary, you will understand what is the base value of judiciary. It is Satyamev Jayate. Here, Satya, truth is the basic values. Truth leads to the justice. So entire the institution of judiciary, the core value systems are justice and truth. In a similar way, if you look at the UNHRC, United Nations Human Rights Commission, the dignity of an individual, dignity of a country. So on the whole, it is a dignity. Dignity is a core value. Dignity, it means that there is a tolerance, there is an acceptance, there is a mutual respect. So one value, it is, there are accumulation of so many values within the one value, dignity. So these, this acts as a foundational value for UNHRC, and here truth acts as a foundational value of judiciary, justice acts as a foundational value of a judiciary, impartiality acts as a foundational value of judiciary. In the same way, we have foundational values for civil services also, we have foundational values for public services also. Now let's see the what are the foundational values. Now, before that, let us talk about why do we need this foundational value? Why is it necessary? Let's talk about this aspect. The first reason is discretionary powers. Discretionary powers, let me explain this. See, we have constitution in our country, we have laws, we have regulation, we have statutory bodies, we have constitution body. All these things are there. So even to put a signature in a file, if I am an officer, I have to go through with all these codes, conduct, constitutional morality, everything. I have to make sure that I am satisfying everything. Beyond all these things, beyond all these constitutional morality, law, regulation, statutory bodies, vigilance, beyond all these things, still civil servants, they have a discretionary powers in their hand. So now what is the problem here? See, if I have these values of integrity and honesty, probity, then I make sure that even in my discretionary powers, I'm not going to misuse my power. I am not going to indulge in corrupt activity. So discretionary powers, even in this discretionary power is a situation, it is a condition where none of these applies. There are situations, it arises in civil services actually, where none of your constitution, legal aspects, regulation, that does not fit in that particular scenario. In these kind of discretionary situations, you need to have certain morals, you need to have certain values. When you have these values and morals, you're not going to misuse this discretionary power, you're not going to misuse your authority. So foundational values are very much necessary to control or to make sure that your discretionary powers are not misused. And then second reason is that resources. Me being a civil servant, I have to handle human resources, I have to handle natural resources, I have to handle the financial resources. It is a very big responsibility on me. And handling of resources, it may be underutilization or it may be overutilization, especially if you think of financial resources. So if I am not efficient or if I don't give my 100%, there might be underutilization of funds, there might be overutilization of funds. But this situation, me being a civil servant, what it demands, it demands optimum utilization of these funds. And how does this optimum utilization happens? When I follow these foundational values like objectivity, foundational values like impartiality, foundational values like compassion, empathy. If I inculcate these values, if I manifest these values in my conduct, then I am going to utilize the government resources or the public resources in an efficient way. So for that reason also we want foundational values. Then trust deficit. See, civil servant, public servant, above there are political representatives, and I am connected to citizens. So I am between, me being a public servant, I am between one side political leaders, another side it is citizens. So I am in between, so I am connected to both of these people. So somewhere at this point of time, the trust factor on public servants, public services, it's quite questionable actually. See, even you can meet or talk to the political representatives like MP and MLA, but go to a district office and just, even if you try to meet that district commissioner there, it is not that easy to meet. So somewhere the connectivity factor between public and the public servant, it is widening, the gap is widening. So somewhere people don't trust public servants at this point of time. So now how do you solve this trust deficit? If you have these foundational values of truth, trustworthiness, honesty, then people believe me. If I am honest officer, then people are going to trust me, and people are also put trust in me that I will be efficient in the policy implementation. So the trust deficit can be reduced. If the trust deficit is reduced, Then citizen centric administration, we can expect citizen centric administration. So it helps to bridge trust deficit. In turn, citizen centric administration can be expected. For that reason also, we need foundational values like trustworthiness, truth, honesty, sincerity, all these things. And then in public service, in civil services, there are two concepts: conflict of interest and ethical dilemma. Conflict of interest is that there will be some situations where it looks like me being a civil servant, I am compromising my official status, official position for some personal interest. See, this situation arises actually. So, in order to, how do you deal with this kind of conflict of interest situation? If you are aware of foundational values, then you will uphold objectivity. Then, whatever you maintain transparency, you maintain accountability and responsibility. When you maintain these aspects, then it is easy to prevent conflict of interest. It is easy to deal with conflict of interest. In a same way, there will be ethical dilemma. No matter what, how best the administration there will be ethical dilemmas. Ethical dilemma is a situation where there are two choices in front of you, and whatever the choice you make, ultimately you are going to end up compromising one line. So these are the real life situation you are going to face in the administration. Now, how do you deal with this? If you have that detailed understanding of foundational value, it would be easy for you to deal with ethical dilemma also. So, in order to prevent conflict of interest, in order to deal with ethical dilemma, the foundational values are extremely important. And civil services, it is quite dynamic in nature. It is not that every rule is there, code of conduct is there, and I'm going to follow that. No, situation is quite dynamic, and even it expects dynamic nature from public servant or a civil servant also. So in order to have this dynamic attitude, you need to have certain foundational value, that you need to be innovative, you need to be receptible, you need to have that tolerance, you need to have that acceptance. All these things you need to have in your conduct, you need to have in your character also. So in order to be have this aspect of dynamicity, you need to have these foundational values. So it makes public servants grounded. So these are some of the reasons we think, and it shows why foundational values are very important in civil services, right? And the next, in this slide, we're talking about what are the source. See, foundational values, I told you that individual values, I have certain values, you have certain values. My value is hard work, your value is smart work. So it changes. Now, if I talk about foundational values of civil services, it means that there is a standard set of rules. Every civil servant, they have to uphold these rules. It means that these foundational values, they have to be accepted by everybody. Then where do you derive, from where exactly you derive these foundational values? See, in individual level, my value is not accepted by you, and I am not going to accept your values because it differs from person to person. But this is not the case for particular institutions. This is not the case for civil services also here. Now you have to derive foundational values. Then what are the sources where exactly you can derive these foundational values? One of the sources is constitution. Constitution talks about secularism, constitution talks about equality, all these things. The republic, democratic, all these ideas are taken from constitution. And then law, rules, regulation, the statutory acts everywhere, there also you derive some of the foundational values. Then judicial observation also, the especially the during the hearing or the cases, judiciary makes some observation and it gives some input. And even these inputs also, they also acts as a guiding factor for civil services, they also act as guiding factor for administration. Even judicial observation also, one of the sources where you can get these foundational values. Then ARC, Administrative Reforms Commission. So Administrative Reforms Commission, as the name indicate, we need some reformation in administration because our administration is not perfect. In order to improve our administration, government has set up two commissions, first and second administrative commission, and they have given certain inputs, and these foundational values are derived from those inputs also. So that is also one of the source. And Nolan principles, especially the United Kingdom, they have formed a commission to how to better the administration, and that commission, the Nolan commission, it has given certain principles, certain values, and they've told that these values are necessary in public services or public administration. And these are Nolan principles, and Nolan principles are quite famous around the world, and most of the countries, they have inculcated these values, these principles in their administration also. So Nolan principles, we are going to talk about Nolan principles, ARC, in detail in the last I think last but one unit, that is ethics in public administration, where we are going to have a detailed discussion. And yes, there was a question also on Nolan principle. There was a direct question on Nolan principle also. We are going to have a discussion on that. Then what is the next source? That is conduct rules, the civil service conduct rules of 1964. That also gives a list of attributes being a civil servant I should have. So conduct rules and united code for conduct of public officials, this internationally drafted, this is an international draft where most of the countries, they have derived these values out of the United Nations code also. Then public service bill of 2016, see, it is a bill, remember that, public service bill 2006. And then even from the life journey or the way, there are some extraordinary administrators, reformers, they have given their contribution to Indian administration. And if you go through with their lives, you derive certain values from them, being courage, fearlessness, or innovative excellence, all. There are some integrity, honesty, these kind of values we have derived out of their conduct also, out of their life also. So life examples, being they are the role models, and we are deriving these foundational values from their lives also. So these are some of the sources from where we can derive foundational values, and these sources, they are accepted by everybody, right? Then I told you that, see, in general, if you talk about values, there will be a number of values, but we don't have that much time. And also, from my exam perspective, our discussion should be limited. How do you limit this? Now, your foundational values, whatever the sources we have discussed, let's take some of the foundational values from them and let's have a discussion. And also, let us keep the previous year's question paper also one of the reference from where we can decide which foundational values to discuss and which to ignore. So here in second ARC, second Administrative Reforms Commission, in the 10th report, name of the report is Refurbishing of Personal Administration, Scaling New Heights. This is the name of the report, and this report has very precisely talked about 6 foundational values. First, what we do is we are going to discuss these 6 values in detail, and once we are done with that, then we are going to take up other values, like the values which are mentioned in Nolan principles, or in general there are certain standard values or some values which are prescribed by judiciary. All these things we are going to have a discussion, but these 6 will be in detail, and the rest of them, maybe around 12 or 13 from other values, where we are going to have a brief discussion, right? So here, what are the values that are mentioned in second ARC? The first is objectivity. Objectivity is that if I am an IAS officer, I have to make a decision based on rules. For everything, even to give my signature on a file, there is a rule, and I have to follow that rule only. That what are the precautions I have to take, and what are the aspects I should make sure before signing this particular file. Everything has been mentioned in the rule of law. So being objective, it means that I am just following whatever it has been mentioned in the law. Subjectivity is that I am putting my own opinion here, but in civil services it has to be objectivity, and this is what mentioned in second ARC. And we are going to have detailed discussion on objectivity, that without any bias, without any partiality, or sticking on to what exactly has been mentioned. So this is objectivity. Then comes empathy. Empathy for vulnerable and weaker society, weaker sections of the society. It is not only empathy, even the extended discussion is compassion. Empathy and compassion. Empathy is that I know what exactly you're going through, what pain you're going through, how exactly you're feeling. This is empathy. And extended version of empathy is compassion. It means that I am going to take some positive action to relieve your pain. So empathy and compassion. And here in the civil services, this empathy and compassion, it is for vulnerable sections of the society, it is for weaker sections of the society, right? Then the next values are probity and integrity. See, probity, we are going to talk about probity in detail in the last unit. So here we are not going to take the discussion of probity, but we are going to have a discussion on integrity. Integrity, it is usually told as value of values. It means that this is the basis of all other foundational values. If you are if you have this integrity, it means that you are honest, you are sincere, you are truthful, and you follow the rule of law. And this integrity means that you are honest when nobody is watching, that you are accountable to your conscience. So you are answerable to your conscience. It is not, see, I'm not honest, not because being corrupt is punishable offense. No, that is a different reason. I am honest, I am non-corrupt because I am answerable to my conscience, and my conscience tells that this is wrong thing to do. And taking money or being corrupt and taking bribe, these things are wrong. Me being a public servant, I should not do it. I am accountable to my conscience. So this is integrity. And next value is commitment. And again, extended version of commitment is dedication. Commitment is that I am an IAS officer and my commitment is for the public good, public welfare. Again, dedication is, we are going to have a discussion on that also. The extent commitment is that I am committed, that I work for the people, and dedication is that I am devoted in my work. I'm giving my 100% for the public cause. That is dedication. And then we have a impartiality and non-partisanship. So these 5 or 6 values we are going to have a detailed discussion first, and then we are going to take up the rest of the values. And another aspect here is that none of these values are absolute in nature. Absolute in nature, it means that there is a factor of relativity is there. It depends on time, it depends on place, it depends on person. See, objectivity, it means that me being an officer, I have to follow the rules. Fine, there are standard, there are procedures have been written, I have to follow, I agree with that. But there is an emergency situation, there is a flood or earthquake kind of situation. Rule says that I have to get green signal, or a file has to be signed from my senior before taking any measures. But at this point of time, at this earthquake, I have to take steps. At this point of cyclone, I have to make some effort. At this point of time, if I keep on waiting for my senior to sign the file, this is going to cause destruction of property, and it is going to cause loss of life also. So in order to avoid these kind of things, I have to put my subjectivity. So what I'm trying to say is, even though these are foundational values, but it depends on time, place, person. So the factor of relativity is there. So this is what we are talking about foundational values. So here we talked about why it is important and what are foundational values and what are the sources of foundational values. And in this particular slide, we talked about the important foundational value, the core priority will be given to these foundational value, and then along with that we are going to take up other foundational values also. So I think this is it for this video. Yes, I will see you guys in the next video. We are going to start the detailed discussion of individual foundational value. So thank you for listening. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good time.